I'm Narelle Todd.
And I'm Essie Susan Smith.
We are the self-publishing author and marketing duo that has sold over 2 million books. But we didn't start out knowing how to sell books. Fast forward past many failed promotions and a lot of lessons learned, you will see how we went from self-publishing newbies to hitting the New York Times bestsellers list and making the USA Today bestsellers list 19 times and counting. We created the Get My Book Out There podcast to give you simple yet effective marketing strategies to increase readership and book sales, so you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, as well as some tips for staying mentally and physically well.
Let's get started.
And we're talking newsletters, which is one of our favorite topics. But newsletters are so important to an author and their business. And what we wanted to talk to you today about was how to get your newsletters opened. And we've got 3 tips for you.
Well, tip number 1 is one of my favorite things. Is at the very beginning of my newsletters, I make it personal. And it's really interesting is you can make it personal without being too personal, but I love the fact that I love taking photos. So I share my photos, everyone gets to see the photos that I take, and 99.9% of them are pictures of some kind of animal. or landscape or flower or mushroom or spider. It's got to be something that I encountered during that month from my last newsletter, but it's stuff that resonated with me, stuff that I enjoy sharing with others. I've shared my grand fur babies. My son has a pet skunk, and so I was just laughing like crazy because the skunk was able to open the food thing. And he's got a new kitten, and they're like partners in crime and everything. So I include stories like that in there. Every month I get readers that respond to me saying, I love your newsletters. I love the photos that you send. And what's really cool is when they say that, and then they send the photos from theirs that resonate with them. And this last month, one of the coolest our last couple of months is I have a husband. His wife reads my stories, but he's gotten into my newsletters so much because of course I've got alligators and other wildlife there. And so he's sending me pictures of the howler monkeys that are in his backyard. So we're sharing photos back and forth.
Yeah.
While I'm saying hi to your wife.
And that's where being personal is, as you say, I think the boundary is up to you as to how personal do you go. Some people don't want to share their kids' photos and stuff like that. And I think that's certainly reasonable. But there will be some aspect of life that you could perhaps, share with people and talk about. It just opens doors for people to then connect with you on a certain level. With you, it's the nature.
Oh, I love being out. For me, the sunsets and the sunrises, and my husband, as you could tell from the background, this is one of his photos, and he does astrophotography. So, usually I refer to him as my hubby, and I share the photos. But it's that connection. I don't have to tell him my kids' names. I don't have to, I have plenty of grand fur babies to share. So I talk about the grand fur babies and laugh about all the annex. It's like, oh, payback. You always heard that, when you have kids, it's got to be payback. And it's like, oh, they're getting it really good because the kitten is doing this and the skunk is doing that and the dogs are doing this. For me, it's part of, I think, the fun and the love and the family and the friendship that I write in my books comes through in my newsletters.
Yes, yeah. And you see authors who do a regular thing on what their cats are doing. Yes. One author I think of in particular, she's just such a cat person. So she actually puts cats, in her newsletter. So it's finding that something which you're comfortable with, some aspect of life, just to allow people to come in and just connect with you on that personal level. So incredibly powerful. So have a think about what is it that you can do that can make your newsletter, that give it that touch of personal. What would you be talking about? And for me, it would probably be coffee.
Well, and there's so many things that you can do with coffee and ways you can have coffee and memes that you can create with coffee. And that's the cool thing is that just about everybody has a cell phone.
Yes.
And cell phones take fabulous photos, and you don't have to have a lot of writing because, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So don't be afraid to, put a picture in there and talk about that picture. Like, oh my God, I had this cup of coffee this morning and all these weird shapes were coming around. And I was thinking, okay, that was a really good dream, or maybe I shouldn't have had that NyQuil last night. What was in it type
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So, just make light of things and make it fun, make it humorous. It can be serious at times, but don't leave it, as dark and depressing. You want people to come back. And dark and depressing, if something's going on in your life, you can kind of touch on it. But again, like you said, go to your comfort level and the comfort level that you think that your readers would be good with.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And that's why it's so important to know who your readers are too. So have a look at your reader avatar and see what would appeal to them, and start sharing then something around that topic that's also personal for you. So,
Yes.
find the bits that match together for that. And we also want to, so our second tip is that we want to actually send our newsletter regularly and consistently. And this is a really big, I think for a lot of people, we get caught up on this one. So it may be that, the first couple of, let's say we're sending once a month. The first couple of months is good, we did it. And then it's like, we
I
fall
don't
off
have
the
anything
wagon
to
and
say. Nobody's reading them. And it's like, why am I doing this? It's just a
yes.
waste of time. No, it is not.
Yes, yes. So you have to keep going. So no matter, even if you think there's crickets and nothing's happening, the very consistency of you turning up in somebody's email, the inbox every month or however regularly you do it, there's a power in that. Even if they're not opening it, to start with, hang in there for at least 6 months and just keep sending.
For me, I always think of this moment in my life. I was in Yosemite with my son, and we were hiking up to Vernal Falls. It was like sheer, almost straight up. At least it felt like it. And I mean, I was like walking like 10 steps, have to stop. Walk 10 steps, have to stop. And he's pushing me at times. We can do this. And then he finally said, if you want to wait here, I'll go up there and then I'll come back. And I thought, what if there was like this curve in the path. And what if I go around the curve and there's Vernal Falls and I missed it because I didn't go around the last few steps around that path. And guess what? I went around that curve and there was Vernal Falls. I'd made it to the top, and it was like this close to missing this gorgeous, huge waterfall that I'd been, struggling for 2 hours to get up to. And I would have missed that if I hadn't just pushed through.
Yeah.
And I think newsletters are a lot, I kind of apply things that I've done in my life to other things. And for me, that's the same with the writing. If I didn't push through and finish that story and then publish the next one and the next one, if I don't stick with the newsletter, if maybe that there's going to be that next newsletter will be the one that'll go viral.
Yeah.
And what really sucked is it only took 20 minutes to come down from Vernal Falls. Going up 2 hours, coming down 20 minutes. And again, that's like with the newsletters, is once you've done them and you've gotten into that pattern and you think, oh, well, nobody's listening, nobody's reading them. Why am I doing this? Well, that next one may be the one that goes viral, and all the other ones are just a breeze going downhill.
Yeah, yeah. And so important to remember that I think we all look for the bright, shiny objects, or the thing that's going to make me successful, or, and there's always feels like potentially that there's something else out there that I need to be doing in order to be successful. The thing that I maintain is that there's a core set of foundational steps that you need to do. And these core steps pretty much what I call your regular maintenance stuff, where you have to turn up every month. You have to be there, you have to be doing them consistently and regularly, and that can be boring. These core steps, though, are what actually drives our business forward. But instead, because it is often seen as boring and, it's maintenance type things, or, I call it boring as batshit stuff. But, we're looking for the excitement or the new, or, oh, that one will make me, grow in leaps and bounds, or it's this. No, it's this stuff down the bottom, and it's things like sending out your newsletter consistently and regularly is actually one of the core principles to actually growing your business.
Well, it's that constant contact. Even if you don't have a book out, you've got that newsletter going out, and you're giving them a piece of your life. You're still staying connected with them, and it's the foundation. If you don't have a good foundation, the building above is going to crumble, or it's not even going to be able to withstand the first storm that hit. So you need to have, like you said, those core elements, that good foundation laid. And by having the newsletter, if you're doing it once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month, I suggest doing it at least once a month. You're having that contact, and the same day or within the first couple of days, of when you send it out, make sure that you do it consistently and keep that constant contact. Then if you don't release a book for 6 months or a year, you've still had that contact with them. And so they're still waiting to hear from you. And then when you release that book, they're going to be excited.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So tip number 2 is to send your newsletter out regularly and consistently. You want to keep doing that. Let's say it's at least once a month that you're doing that. And that leads into our third tip, which is about resending your newsletter out 3 days after you send it out the first time. So what that is really just a prompt to those who didn't open it. It's like another bite of the cherry sort of thing. Here, have it, here it is in case you missed it the first time. And that follow-up is really important, because it could be in any number of reasons why people won't open the first time. And we often see open rates are better the second time we send it than the first time on some newsletters. Don't know why. Everything's exactly the same. So it could just be a timing issue. We don't know, but people are opening it. That's what we do know, and that's what's important. So never miss that opportunity.
And that's the hand pushing your back up that steep incline, up that path, to get you to do that. And when they resend it, for example, I have some newsletters right now that I normally open and read, and I haven't done it because this week has just been, and this last weekend has just been totally crazy. But I know they're still there. They're fresh in my mind. And what'll happen is, in fact, I've got them marked as new still. And what happens is if I do get overwhelmed with everything that I've got going on, if I get that second notice, it's like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to read this. I haven't. I'm going to take the time now to do it because I've been reminded again, and I'm just going to take the time. So it's like time out from everything else. I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so much power in that second resend. A number of authors have said, I don't want to bother people. It's not a bother. And look, and if somebody unsubscribes, then they didn't want to be there on your newsletter. So you really should be celebrating the fact that they've removed themselves, because that helps the health of your actual list when people self-select out. So unsubscribes, always expect them, and be okay with them when they're at a normal level.
Yes.
If everyone unsubscribes, there was a big problem there. But, just normal number of unsubscribes, they're things to be celebrated. Cut yourself a break there. People want to hear from you. Once again, celebrate that people want to hear from you by giving them 2 goes so that you make sure that they get it. Just to go through everything again, our first tip was to make things personal. So put in something there that connect with you and your reader on a personal level. And that can be at whatever level you're comfortable with. Some people do pictures. Some people, might tell a story about something that's going on. That one's up to you. It could just be a really great meme or a GIF or even a little video, anything that.
I have a really, really cool, actually 2 really cool videos that I want to share in mine this time.
I think, videos, of course, do so well. So, just a really short, like nothing more than 15 seconds.
Yes.
Great video, for personal sort of contact. And then you want to send consistently and regularly. So we're saying at least once a month you want to be connecting, with your readers and just sharing all sorts of stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be with you selling your book, but put something in there that's personal, that connects. And I would say always have something in there about a book, because why wouldn't you?
Well, you have to have, you put the stuff in about the books, but the newsletter for me is more about just staying connected. They already know about me, otherwise they wouldn't be, and my books, otherwise they wouldn't be on my newsletter. So the really cool thing about being able to do the newsletter and not have to make it feel like a marketing.
Yeah. And then the third tip is to resend the same newsletter out 3 days after you sent it the first time. Awesome. Rightio. Well, you know what you need to do from here. So today's the day to go make it happen.
Today is the day.
Yes. We want some newsletter action from everyone. Okay. So commit to that.
Have a great week.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. You know we've got way more information we want to share with you to increase your book sales. So please come and join me at facebook.com. Get my book out there.